I have two words for three-act structure.
You basic.
That's right. Today we're looking at some of the common alternative structures that fantasy novels use and some examples for those of you who'd like to explore. Let's start off with one of the most common ways fantasy authors break three-act structure. The fantasy genre in specific uses visions all the time. The first Monster Hunter International book by Larry Correia uses visions really well. Often the story within a story, especially when it comes to visions, can lack character connection to help the reader invest in this new story. But Monster Hunter International does a great job of establishing characters within the vision, including a lovable spirit guide, helping the main character work through the new information he's seeing. Some other examples of visions as story within a story are the Wheel of Time series, the Lightbringer series, and the Harry Potter series. Personally, I'm using visions in my novel, The Fourth Wall, to help one of my point of view characters, Tar Hollow, learn about important past events. He gets them in random order and has to piece them together and use information he learns outside of the visions to read between the lines and piece together the secrets hidden by his rulers. Bards and storytellers are another method fantasy authors often use to tell a story within a story. Hoyd in the Stormlight Archive tells some particular mesmerizing stories that serve not only to build the characters, but also the world of Roshar. The Tower of the Swallows, the fourth or sixth Witcher book, depending on how you count, is built around this story structure as Ciri tells her story to a philosopher who is nursing her back to health. Interludes basically scream at you that they are breaking the three-act structure. The Stormlight Archive uses interludes to break up each book within each Stormlight novel. These interludes often come back to play later in the novel or serve as really fun glimpses into the rest of Roshar. The Greenbone Saga and the Lies of Locke Lamora use interludes as a way to give more detailed world building, specifically culture and history that maybe don't come out so organically throughout the story. Flashbacks can be used to tell their own story and to provide deeper meaning to the main timeline. The Stormlight Archive does both. At this point, I should have just done a video about Stormlight Archive. Each Stormlight Archive focuses its flashback on a different character and tells its own story. But those stories build out the cast in very meaningful ways. The flashbacks in The Sword of Kaigen serve to build Misaki's past. It works really well because she doesn't really talk about her past much and has built a wall against it. The flashbacks serve to show us why she has built that wall and add a lot of meaning to the interpersonal conflicts of the story. The flashbacks are peppered throughout the story and add incredible value. The Gentleman Bastard series also uses flashbacks rather extensively. The flashbacks in this series are hit and miss for me, but The Lies of Locke Lamora has the strongest, most meaningful flashbacks. The third book, The Republic of Thieves, is probably the only one on this list that leans more heavily toward telling its own story than building the characters. It's no surprise then that I also didn't like those flashbacks all that much. A few more examples include Mistborn Era 2, which uses flashbacks in the prologues. The Lightbringer series uses flashbacks from time to time, and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I started but never finished, so I won't say much more about it. I'm not going to dwell too much on this because I've done a deeper dive into this rather confusing structure when I talked about The Villain's Duology by V.E. Schwab. Check out the card or the link in the description below. Some other examples are The Death of the Black Widow, which I barely consider urban fantasy, and the final book in the Magicians series. For the Magicians, it was a little disorienting to have this structure sprung on me in the third book, but once I realized what was happening, I thought the execution was well done. It's also a strange example of this structure because it only uses this structure for the first half of the novel. Finally, we have the all over the place category, which I've reserved for the Witcher series. Both The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny are a mix somewhere between novel and compilation of short stories, and the timeline is all over the place. I personally think these are the best of the Witcher novels, and these books are structured flawlessly despite how random the timeline can feel. I'm so intrigued by the Sword of Destiny, in fact, that I'm planning a deeper dive into why the random timeline model works so well in this book. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And in the meantime, here's that video about the villain's duology and Oppenheimer structure.